It's time for another, I might have fallen for this kind of attack, and it covers all of my favorite topics. I feel like Stefan, it has everything. It's got fake browser extensions. It's got malvertising. It's got ClickFix. It's got a brand new family of malware, and it's got a new thing called CrashFix. Not even just ClickFix, we have CrashFix. This is going to be a little bit deeper of a malware analysis as this video goes, but I'm going to show you the really cool, tricky part up front. So watch longer if you want the malware analysis part. But to get right to it, we've got this awesome, just awesome write-up. I just went through it live on stream of this malware write-up from Huntress, dissecting CrashFix. Kong Tuke's new toy, Kong Tuk. I don't know how to say this. I've never heard it out loud. I've only read it a few times, right? But we have a fake browser extension that was live in the Chrome Web Store that was being distributed via malvertising, meaning they were buying Google ads talking about this new ad blocker that would then get people to install this Chrome extension. And what it did was crazy. We're going to show you a video right off the bat of what this did. So thanks Huntress for doing it. So it was called NexShield. They're typo squatting part of it. This is a legitimate extension in the Chrome Web Store. It's got a bunch of like, oh, look at all these cool reviews that we've got, right? And it's basically a clone of uBlock Origin Lite, almost to the letter, like a few bytes off. We'll get to it. So here they go. They installed it. I think they're using Edge for this demo, but it's obviously it's in the Chrome Web Store. So it works. It's installed. They're showing you that it's installed, but watch the nastiness that comes up now. Going to have a pop-up. Microsoft Edge has stopped abnormally. Hold on, I'm going to pause it here. This looks pretty legit, right? This is actually a fake pop-up from the extension that then is just convincing you to click this run scan button. Watch how legit this looks too. This just looks like stuff that Microsoft would do, right? Scanning system files, browser data. Please wait while we scan your systems. There was even like a nice little checkbox that says like, do you want to help Microsoft send the crash report? This is stuff that like you're used to. Here's where it goes off the rails. If you've watched my videos about ClickFix, here it is. Here's ClickFix, right? Everything up until this point was a smokescreen of trust building. We were just trying to get you to trust this screen right here. Because if you follow these instructions, you're done. You're toast. You're absolutely hosed. You are installing this malware. So if you don't know what ClickFix is, if you haven't watched my videos, what they were getting you to do by clicking that run scan button, they used JavaScript on the page to put a malicious payload into your clipboard by clicking. They can't do that without you clicking. So a lot of times you'll see like a fake CAPTCHA we've seen for ClickFix. But in this case, it was a malicious extension that you downloaded via an ad, most likely, that then looked like it crashed, or it didn't look like it crashed. It looked like your browser crashed, unrelated to the extension, to get here. Now you, by clicking that run scan button, you have their malicious payload in your clipboard. If you follow these instructions on screen, press the Windows key and R on your keyboard, it's going to open a command prompt. If you press Control V, it'll paste the thing that they stuffed into your clipboard. And if you press enter, it's going to run it in your host. You're done, right? And they even put a little helpful, hey, it's in your clipboard, but in case that broke for some reason, here's our command down here that you can go ahead and copy. But all this is doing in the clipboard is this. It is opening up a command prompt behind the actual command prompt that you did it, so all the activity can be hidden. And then here's where the malware analysis will get to it. It's using a program that's already on your computer called Finger.exe to then reach out to its malicious server and start to load some other payloads and run some commands, steal your information. The other new bits that we haven't seen before are the new Python malware, this Modelo rat. It's previously undocumented Python rat that we're just finding now. This report, I'm recording this on January 20th. This report came out January 16th, and they first saw this in the wild January 14th. So this is like hyper new malware and attacks. But before we get to the rest of this report, a quick word from today's sponsor. I've led incident response at a number of large organizations, and phishing is always the number one concern, one of the main ways where hackers actually get into our systems. And not all phishing is created equal, and not all employees are targeted with the same levels of sophistication of attacks. That's why I'm super excited to share with you Mimecast's new Human Risk Command Center that they invited me to take a look at. The thing Mimecast is realizing and actually putting pen to paper to is assigning a risk score to users based on data, not on vibes. They shared a stat that 8% of users cause 80% of security incidents, and their whole goal is to try to get you closer to figuring out who that 8% is and why. So instead of just determining which users are most risky based on vibes, we can go off of real data. Like, are they late on training or are they failing phishing simulations? But never mind like simulation and training stuff. We can also go off of real data. Like, are they getting attacked? Because we can pull that in. Or did they get real phishes, not simulations? Fall forward or don't. Did they attempt to download malware? Did they mishandle sensitive data? We have a lot of context and information to go off of to determine, is your finance team targeted more by specific types of malware and phishing campaigns than your social media team? But then the real power, the real unlock comes from actually being able to respond based on that riskiness score. Do you have someone that you're deeming more risky because they're being targeted or they're falling for more phishing simulations or they haven't done their training in for however long? Well, you can automatically apply different rules and more strict filters and things like that to their email box, or you can nudge them to complete their trainings or whatever it is that your internal policy states you should do for someone who's maybe fell for more simulated phishing attacks than the average person. You can automate all of that. You don't have to manage that in spreadsheets anymore. And I think that's a huge unlock. So you can see here, you can create a rule. The riskiness score is high. They failed a simulation and they haven't taken their training. Let's put a special filter on their email box to make sure you can keep them out of trouble. Thanks, Mimecast, for showing me the Human Risk Command Center. Super cool tool. Check them out below. Tell them I sent you. They'll take extra special care of you. First of all, shout out to Anna, who I think wrote this. I follow you on social media. You're awesome. And this report genuinely made me laugh a bunch of times, including this meme where it said, this is where I would put my screenshot of a Google ad if I had one. So they have evidence that this was being served via malvertising, but they were never targeted by the ad. So they obviously don't have a screenshot of it. They try to get them when they can. The other really interesting part about this malware, it is trying to focus on corporate victims. So it is doing a lot of analysis once you install it to figure out if it's part of an Active Directory organization so that it could do lateral movement. If you're just a home user, you get a whole different set of payloads and set of malware, including something that just says test payload at one point. So either they haven't actually finished this part of the malware yet, and this is a feature that is going to come in the future to this, or they don't care and they're really just trying to go after organizations, right? So what's different about this? So the ClickFix stuff that we've covered in the past was really just like the fake captchas or otherwise getting you to click on the website to get this then fix into your clipboard. This being called CrashFix is because they simulate a browser crash like we saw in that video, but then they also do actually crash the browser sometimes. A lot of the first payload that this browser does is a denial of service loop. It goes into an infinite loop and it actually crashes your browser. The way that Huntress knew this, if you don't know, Huntress is a piece of security software that's installed on a lot of machines, and they get a lot of this telemetry from their customers kind of globally, right? And so they were able to see, let me scroll down a little bit to it. They were able to see the actual victim of this. This is information off of the victim's machine. These were a bunch of the Google searches that the victim ran after they installed this extension. Chrome repair command, fix Chrome if it crashes or won't open. So this extension actually crashed this victim's Chrome to the point that they were trying to fix it. And Huntress knows this because they can see the searches from this. Every time Huntress posts some of this malware analysis and they can show what they see about the users, people are like, what? This is basically spyware. Yeah, of course. EDR, XDR, whatever, CrowdStrike, Huntress, it's going to be able to see everything that goes on in the computer. If you're working for a company and they have security software on your machine, they want to be able to see everything that's going on your machine. So don't use your corporate machine for personal stuff. And this is why. So going back up, this is probably what the ad would look like, right? This is the legitimate search result, not a sponsored search result, but it's probably very similar if they were going to do this malvertising one. And it's called NexShield, Smart Ad Blocker. And Huntress actually did a bunch of analysis of the code of the extension, because when you install an extension locally, you get most of the code. There's obviously a back end, but you get the whole extension code in your browser. You can do some reversing of all of this, right? It turns out almost byte for byte, this extension is uBlock Origin Lite. They just really search and replaced uBlock Origin and replaced it with NexShield. A bunch of these URLs, even in the headers here, broke. This URL does not exist. They just replaced uBlock Origin with NexShield. But the other stuff that they obviously added to it, besides the byte for byte version of uBlock, is all the malware stuff. So, getting a bit into the malware analysis, first, they do have this obfuscated bit of a variable that's reaching out to their command and control server. This is actually a misspelled. It's not NexShield, it's NexShield. Kind of interesting, right? I did look at that. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But then what it does is a whole bunch of fingerprinting of your device. Because again, it's trying to figure out if your device is worth doing the rest of the malware-y things that it's going to do. But one of the sneaky things that it does, I've seen sneakier versions of this in other analysis, but this is still really kind of fun to go into, is it uses Chrome's alarms API to delay execution by 60 minutes. And then it does another check about every 10 minutes thereafter. So this is trying to decouple the point from which the user downloads and installs the extension from suspicious stuff happening on the device, right? So they're trying to detach it in your brain of like, oh, my browser crashed, or I saw that weird pop-up come up. People who know what ClickFix is, this whole like Windows R thing, if I saw that, I would immediately know it's ClickFix because I do this for a living. It's obviously very tricky for normal users, and it's been hyper successful. Anyone I talk to that works in incident response right now is working ClickFix incidents right now. It's hyper successful. So in order to, again, get away from, oh, I installed that extension and then something bad happens, they wait an hour. And then after that hour, they do that initial trigger, and then they do additional parts of the payload every 10 minutes thereafter. When I say I've seen trickier versions of this, what I mean is this is static. This is a static number, 60 and 10. I've seen them that do them variably. So at some variable pseudo-random time in the future, grab one part of the payload. And then at like another variable random time in the future, grab another part of the payload. So no whole payload is coming over, and it's not at predictable intervals. This really starts to like make the malware reversing that we're doing here harder. This, I guess, was, fairly easy for this team. Maybe matters less because we have all the code of the extension. So like they didn't have to do any crazy malware reversing here. It's like, oh, Chrome.alarms, 60 minutes, right? Because this is just all bundled with the extension. Then we get into what the malware actually does that's nefarious, including this browser resource exhaustion. So there's some details here, but really it's just setting a loop to do like a billion things and crashes your Chrome browser or your Chromium browser. This will work on any Chromium browsers that can install this extension. So in that video, it was Edge. And again, we have evidence of this because the victim that kicked off this whole investigation by Huntress started Google searching, what do I do when Chrome crashes? We don't have to get into like a whole bunch of the actual malware analysis. It's doing a lot of things that you would expect in terms of fingerprinting the device and then starting to try to grab sensitive information. But I do also really like to go into a lot of the anti-analysis things that it does. So this is trying to make sure that the technical savvy, users or Huntress malware reverse engineers makes their job a little bit harder. These ones are very bypassable. Sometimes they get kind of interesting and they do a little bit later too, but it is blocking keyboard shortcuts for dev tools, like to bring up that dev tools part of a Chromium browser to like inspect what's going on in network traffic. It also disables right-click menus that would also be able to like inspect element or bring up the network menu. And then it prevents text selection and dragging, again, to like move stuff out of the malware interface into something that you're going to analyze. The one bit, this was the TIL. I didn't know about this Finger.exe. If you malware nerds did, sound off, call me stupid, whatever. I didn't know about this. So this is a legitimate Windows utility that's originally designed to retrieve information about users on remote systems. It goes way back, early days of the internet, apparently. But recently, threat actors have been repurposing it as a live off the land thing because they can use it to fetch data from remote servers and pipe the output directly to the command line. Doesn't that sound super useful if you were writing malware? It is, right? And this is why this command that they pasted into your browser was so easy. It's just like fire up this Finger.exe and then rename it ct.exe just to avoid detection and things like that. And then just start sending commands to the command line. By the way, reach out to this remote server and pipe it to command. So hyper useful for malware developers, even though it's a legitimate thing that's already sitting on your Windows box. And then the rest, like you can see, if you could see my little scroll on the screen, I'm not even halfway through this malware analysis. Almost the rest of this is this Kong2K or Kong2K group layering obfuscation. They make the joke at some point that they think they're getting paid by layer to just try to break analysis or get, what we're doing to be harder. A lot of it is multiple layers of base64 encoding and XOR operations. They say Kong2K opts for the malware equivalent of stacking napkins over a secret message. So, base64 and XORing is easily reversed. It's just tons and tons of layers. Again, with the memes. Thank you, Anna. When you ask Kong2K how many layers of obfuscation it uses, ogres have layers. Kong2K has layers. Again, some of the more interesting things that I do want to hit in the malware analysis is the anti-analysis technique. techniques. So scans running processes for 50 different analysis tools like Wireshark or Process Hacker or IDA, and then VM indicators. This is super common these days. I just covered on my live stream before I started recording this, like 3 different malware families that are going around right now, and they're all checking if they're in a VM, and then they behave differently. In this case, if any of these things are found, this process exits immediately. It's like, nope, I'm out. You're obviously trying to analyze me as malware. I'm going to stop. So this is like a cat and mouse game that then malware reversers need to figure out how to avoid their detection of them analyzing the malware in order to properly analyze the malware. As I said at the beginning, it checks if the machine is domain joined or standalone via this workgroup indicator, and this helps the attacker distinguish between corporate targets. It's very much getting into corporate targets. It sends a post request to grab some C2 stuff. If it is domain joined, as they say, this gets the VIP treatment. It gets the rest of the payload. It's like, oh, this is a corporate thing. We're going to do lateral movement. We're going to bring this new rat on, this Modelo rat, which has all sorts of different components. It's like a really kind of in-depth bit of malware, and it's going to get a lot versus the standalone machines, which get a whole lot less of all of this. All right, we're not going to dive too much deeper into the rest of this malware analysis. It's a lot of obfuscation and anti-analysis techniques, and it's a lot of, grabbing the different command and controls. But I just wanted to show you guys mostly was this new CrashFix things. This looked so legit. Everything up until the point of that ClickFix in that video was so convincing to me, right? It's like you have this legitimate looking extension with tons of ratings. It's like, hey, yeah, look, it's got ratings, guys. Suspicious. They all happened on the same day, December 1st, 2025. That's interesting, but looks legit. It is almost a byte for byte clone of uBlock Origin. So it probably feels legit once you install it. And then an hour later, your browser crashes. Kind of nasty stuff. So would you guys have fallen for this one? Would anyone in your life have fallen for this one? I think that I would have, I don't know if I would have fallen for the actual click this run scan thing. Because usually when apps crash and they're like, hey, send information to me for analysis, I click no. But even clicking no would have gotten me a step further in this because they would have put it on my clipboard. I don't know. I think I know enough about ClickFix to not have fallen for this one. But this is really, really sneaky. Really, really sneaky. And I don't even know if ClickFix needed to get sneakier. It's so successful already. The Cloudflare CAPTCHA ClickFix stuff going on is already hyper successful. People are having a hard time not falling for that. So Huntress, Anna, fantastic write-up, just absolutely fantastic. I can't believe that this malware came out 6 days ago. You wrote this 4 days ago. This is brand new malware, and I have a multi-page lines of code malware analysis through all that obfuscation. Great work. This is fantastic stuff. This is kind of stuff that we need to keep on top of to figure this out. I had to make this video. This was like a Venn diagram of all my favorite things: browser extension security, ClickFix, new malware. It had everything. All right, if you like this, do all the YouTube things down below. It helps the channel so much. Subscribe if you haven't already, and follow for more cybersecurity news.